Have you ever wondered how the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian War started? It's a complex issue, rooted deep in history and politics. Understanding the timeline of these events is crucial. From the first signs of tension between the two nations to the escalation into full-blown warfare, each step has its significance. To fully grasp the situation, we must first delve into the roots of this conflict. The Russo-Ukrainian War didn't erupt overnight. It was a brewing storm of political tension and territorial disputes that eventually found its ignition point in the annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014. This marked a significant escalation in the already strained relationships between the two nations, which had been rife with disagreements over eastern Ukraine's political alignment. The annexation, widely condemned by the international community, was a distress signal that a larger conflict was on the horizon. The tension in eastern Ukraine only fanned the flames. Deep-seated cultural and political divides between the Ukrainian government and pro-Russian separatists in regions like Donetsk and Luhansk led to violent clashes. These skirmishes, initially localized, gradually expanded into a larger conflict, engulfing the entire region in the throes of war. The dispute over Crimea and the unrest in eastern Ukraine were the sparks that ignited the powder keg, leading to the full-blown Russo-Ukrainian War we see today. This marked the beginning of a tragic conflict that would impact millions of lives. As the conflict evolved, the timeline of the war became increasingly complex. The first domino to fall was the annexation of Crimea by Russia in early 2014. This bold move was met with international condemnation, yet it marked the beginning of a conflict that would soon escalate beyond anyone's expectations. Following this, fighting broke out in eastern Ukraine. Russian separatists, backed by Moscow, began to wrestle control of the region from the Ukrainian government. These early skirmishes would prove to be the precursors to a war that would span years and take countless lives. As tensions escalated, the world was shocked by the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 in July of 2014. All 298 passengers and crew on board were killed. This tragic event further internationalized the conflict and led to a series of sanctions against Russia. In an attempt to quell the violence, the Minsk agreements were signed in 2015. These were designed to implement a ceasefire and start a political process towards peace. However, violations of the ceasefire were rampant and the peace process stalled. The fighting continued, and the war entered a phase of frozen conflict. Fast forward to today, the war has taken a more destructive turn, with Russia launching a wave of missile and drone strikes across Ukraine. Residential buildings and infrastructure have been hit, resulting in the deaths of at least 4 civilians. Images of destruction in Ukrainian towns bear witness to the escalating violence. These events have resulted in a war that has claimed countless lives, destroyed homes, and displaced millions. But the war is not just a series of events, it's a human tragedy. It's a reality that's brutally etched in the destruction of residential and commercial areas, the rubble of once thriving communities now silent. The war crimes committed, the indiscriminate missile and drone strikes, have resulted in the loss of innocent lives. Just recently, at least 4 civilians were killed, their lives abruptly ended, their dreams shattered. This is not a war fought solely on battlefields, but in towns and cities where people once lived their everyday lives. Each strike, each explosion, sends a shockwave of fear and despair, ripping apart the fabric of society. The human cost is immeasurable, not just in the lives lost but in the spirits broken, the futures stolen. Families are left to mourn, their grief a testament to the senselessness of war. The aftermath of each attack leaves a stark imprint, not just on the physical landscape, but on the hearts of those left behind. This is the harsh reality of war, where innocent lives are often the ones who pay the highest price. So, where do we go from here? As we look towards the horizon, the future of the Russo-Ukrainian War appears uncertain. The recent wave of missile and drone strikes from Russia has resulted in a heightened sense of urgency, with the international community watching closely. While the resurrection of the Soviet-era counterintelligence organization SMERSH raises questions about Russia's future plans, the growing list of civilian casualties underscores the urgency for a resolution. The international response has been swift and decisive, yet the outcome remains unpredictable. As tensions continue to escalate, the possibility of a prolonged conflict looms large. However, amidst this uncertainty, the global community remains hopeful for a peaceful resolution. As of today, the future of the Russo-Ukrainian War remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the cost of this conflict is far too high.